Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap-up, the WNW 180 for Friday, March 6, 2015. The big story of the week, you have to say it was Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, giving his speech to the joint session of Congress. And now I know why the president did not want to see him come and talk to Congress. I mean, one standing ovation after another from Democrats and Republicans on both sides of the aisle. I mean, it was pretty awe-inspiring to watch him. And I talked to Rob Kirby this week, and he even said that wow, it almost looked like he was more of a the commander-in-chief than our own commander-in-chief, which is sad to say because I'm an American. I back America first, not Israel. But here we have the headline here. It says it all. Israel leader, nuclear pact, a bad deal. It sums it all up. Nuclear pact, a bad deal. Now, the 50 or so Democrats, decided not to show up, which I thought was really childish. I mean, really the wrong way to handle that diplomatically. And whether or not they broke diplomatic protocol or not, I don't care. I just really bad. And then they came out and they trashed Netanyahu and the president. He didn't say anything new. And it just really made the Democrats look petty and childish, especially when you're talking about a country such as Iran on the state sponsor of terrorism list with the Obama State Department. They're on the state sponsor of terrorism list. They're talking about the weight of this country getting a nuclear weapon and this nuclear deal, and they nana poo-poo didn't want to show up, and then trashed Netanyahu. I thought that made them look weak and childish. And a lot of politics are being played with all this. A lot of politics. Let me go back to this. You saw the headline about the Netanyahu says it's a bad deal. That was his message. But let's look at this picture here. This is an AP picture, and let's let it focus in here. You see this picture here? You see these signs? These are all uniform printed signs. They also cropped this shot pretty tight for the AP story, which I think that what they're doing is, they're doing a story about, they could have done a story. Don't you think there were people there saying, stand by Israel? No, they have a story about end all U.S. aid to Israel. That's their picture. That's the image that they're projecting. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, why they cropped this thing short. This is obviously not some folks that are just out, protesting and using their First Amendment right. This is orchestrated. Politics, imaging. And, the AP, this is the story, this is the picture they decided to run. I'm sure there were signs there with people saying, stand by Israel. But this is how highly politicized this is. I mean, you have, the international, atomic energy inspectors, coming out and saying, Iran's playing hide and seek, and they're not telling about all their nuclear facilities, their hidden deep storage, bunkered, military type things. Also, Benjamin Netanyahu, back in 2012, the Mossad outed Netanyahu and said, hey, he's saying that the Iranians are close to a bomb, and that's just not so. They're not that close to getting a nuclear weapon. This is back in 2012. More politics playing back then. And so, but let's fast forward to right now, and here's what we do know. Secretary of State is in the Middle East trying to sell this deal, which Americans don't know what this deal is. Obama told Netanyahu, don't disclose anything to America. Why? The Saudis know. The people in Kuwait know. People in Bahrain know. Everybody knows. We don't know. Iran knows. But America doesn't know what the deal is, which I think is outrageous. Lindsey Graham, senator from South Carolina, said we have a supermajority in the House and the Senate, and you will know the deal. You will know the details of this deal. You will. You will know the details. But I think Senator John Kerry has a very tough sell to the Israelis. I think that's a dead issue. The Saudis, they hate this deal. And the Kuwaitis, other Arab nations don't like this deal. What is real is that the fear with the Arab countries is so bad that they're teaming up with Israel, who has a pretty powerful army. They're teaming up with Israel because they perceive the threat of Iran having a nuclear weapon to be that bad. Whether they have one or not, whether they're close or not, that's what's happening right now. It's so bad, Arabs are teaming up with the Israelis against Iran. That's what's happening right now. Meanwhile, Iranian forces are on the move in Iraq. They are spearheading the attack on Tikrit, Iraq. Now, they're not the whole force. There's other people there as a coalition, but they're spearheading the attack. One of their top commanders, who also is responsible for the deaths of hundreds of American service people in Iraq during our campaign there, they're on the move in Tikrit. Now, think about this now. We have the Iranians on the move attacking in Tikrit because the president wasn't going to put any of our boots on the ground. Hold that thought just for a minute. Then we have John Kerry saying, I think we need to have military force to remove, Bashar al-Assad in Syria. Whoa. Secretary of State John Kerry, you mean to tell me you think we should use military force against Bashar Assad? Aren't the Iranians backing Bashar Assad up there in Syria? Aren't the Iranians spearheading the attack in Tikrit, Iraq? That's it. So we have the Iranians on one end and the Iranians on the other end, and we have ISIS, the bad guys, in the middle. Oh, and then we have the moderate rebels in between these two forces, and John Kerry saying we should use military force to, remove the Assad regime. Excuse me? What? The Saudis are none too keen on what's going on. They've blurted out that, the Obama administration is basically giving Iraq to Iran. And, they're going to be a tough sell on these talks. And it's been reported that Saudi Arabia, just before John Kerry, got into Saudi Arabia, they were having high-level meetings with top Pakistani officials. What do you say they're meeting about nuclear weapons? That's what they think they're meeting about, and that's not the first time that the Saudis have talked about buying nuclear weapons. Back in 2013, I reported this. Back in 2013, the Saudis said that you could find many articles, mainstream articles, The Guardian, all over the place, that they had nuclear weapons on order back in 2013. I think they got them. And what did Pakistan need? Money. What does Saudi Arabia have? Plenty. And now just before John Kerry gets there and they're upset about this, military action that's being spearheaded by Iran in the country just north of them. Oh, and incidentally, the Iranians helped sponsor the overthrow of the Yemeni government south of them. And what do you bet the Saudis are nuking up? And remember back in, I think, 2012 or 13, I think it was 12, they had one of the biggest conventional military buys in history. They bought $60 billion worth of armament and planes and tanks and weapons from the United States. $60 billion. That's what Saudi Arabia didn't. And I remember back in the time I said, they're not buying this for the Israelis. And they didn't. They're not buying it for that. And so you have a situation where this is going to be a near impossible sell. You have the Saudis and other Arab countries, conventionally arming up. The Saudis are nuking up, it appears. And you have the Iranians that are taking over space in Iraq. And you have John Kerry saying, we need to use military force to remove Assad, who's being backed by the Iranians. Wow, what could go wrong? The Saudis and even Netanyahu in this speech said we'll stand alone if we have to against Iran. Well, that's a tacit threat of war. I guess not really such a tacit. Both countries, Israel and Saudi Arabia, have both said they would go to war if they had to stop Iran's nuclear program. And if we are going to attack Syria, what's Russia going to do about that? Remember, I've been telling you about this for I don't know how long, since they had this base in Tartus, that the Russians weren't going to walk out of there. They weren't going to let Syria fall, and Syria hasn't fallen. It's the most convoluted, mixed up, concocted, crazy foreign policy, crazy friends are now enemies, enemies are now friends situation I've ever seen. It's an absolute crazy mess. That's what I do know for sure. Obamacare could be in trouble after, the oral arguments at the Supreme Court. Now, they have lots of liberals on the court, and they're going to vote that, that the IRS can give out any subsidies they want anywhere in the country. But see, here's the problem. The law was written clearly that said you can have a subsidy if your state sets up an exchange. And, the Obama administration thought they would coerce states into doing that because, after all, well, we'll give you some free money and you have an exchange. Well, 35 states or so didn't set up an exchange? In 2 lower federal courts, they've already ruled, wait a minute, you can't interpret this any way you want, hand out tens of billions of dollars to anybody that you deem should get a subsidy. No. 2 lower courts have said, ixnay, no. Can't do that. Now it's in the Supreme Court. And it's going to be a tough, if the government loses, that's who it is, the government against Burwell and some other people, if the government loses this case, well, the whole Obamacare implodes under its own weight. It would be impossible to have the employer mandate. It would be impossible to, have a tax for not buying health care. It would be, poof, Obamacare, gone, bye, gone. Totally gone. And that could be the best thing that could happen to the economy. A lot of people claim they're damaged in this lawsuit as well, saying, I had a 40-hour-a-week job. Now I got a 29-hour-a-week job. I can't get overtime. Well, that would all go away. You could go back to a 40-hour-a-week job. The employer mandate would be over. They could hire people full-time. They could allow people to get overtime and get time and a half. It would be the best thing for poor people. Their paychecks would go up. They'd get a pay increase. And it would be the biggest tax cut, and after all, this was a tax. And it was also, in my opinion, the biggest concocted health care, the biggest policy lie in the history of the United States. Thank you very much, MIT professor Gruber. Thank you. Thank you for exposing the huge concocted lie where non-transparency was your friend. And, this is such a lie perpetrated on the American public, it should be ruled against, in my humble opinion. It'd be the best thing for the United States economy, best thing that could happen to the U.S. economy. They're going to rule by this summer. We shall see. Hillary Clinton's in big trouble over this, the latest flap, the email flap. Oddly enough, ironically, she said to her own staff while she was at the State Department as Secretary of State, she told her own staff, make sure you don't use private emails for any State Department, emails. That's against the rules. And what did she do? She has her own email account for allegedly doing State Department business. Now, this is required by law that you use government email so it can be, documented and it can be saved. And when, people who are looking into the, murders of 4 Americans in Benghazi, they can ask for this information and it's on government servers. But no, not Hillary Clinton. And even Democrats are having a hard time defending this. Hard time. Because when you say, why did you have your own email account? The only answer is because I didn't want people to see what I was doing with a government account. And she's telling her staff, make sure you don't use private emails for State Department work. And this on the heels of, the revelation of while she was as Secretary of State, that she got, foreign donations for the Clinton Foundation. You couldn't think that could be conceived as a bribe or a pay to play or some future will pay you now for a little something extra later when you're president, because she's the leading candidate for 2016. And not to mention that Bill Clinton is hanging around with a convicted pedophile. At some point, when do the Democrats say, okay, enough? It's kind of like the girlfriend that breaks up with a boyfriend who's kind of cute, but he's a jerk. So she breaks up with him. And, time goes by and she forgets about all the nasty things that he did and all the crazy stuff he did. And she gets back with him and realizes, you're still a jerk. And, the Clintons, the Democrats are going to bite down on all that drama. They can't get their social nirvana message. It isn't going very well. According to the last election, it's not going very well. And then they're going to have the drama of Hillary Clinton and the email gate and the foreign donations and who knows what else they're going to have. And Bill Clinton with the convicted pedophile running off to his private island. When did the Democrats say, yeah, you got too much baggage? You're pulling a suitcase, a trunk, a refrigerator, a 1982 Pinto. You got too much baggage. When did they say that to her? Well, we'll see if they run her. I think this is going to hurt her. This is when the Democrats can't defend her over this email thing. And didn't General Petraeus just do a plea agreement because he mishandled sensitive documents and information that he wasn't supposed to hand out to his mistress? I mean, Hillary Clinton didn't have that, but still, this is not talking about handling documents and information and secure, servers and yeah. She wants to be president of the United States, supposedly. That's the way I see it. I'm Greg Hunter. Thank you so much for supporting USA Watchdog with your comments and donations. Remember, fear not. Prepare yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually.